Hello again, everybody. I've got a couple things to share with you. I hope it will save you a little bit of money. So I've got, I save all these little pieces of ends, short pieces of little pinched off ends of rods, encased stringers. I separate them. These are shades of blue. My work table is clean right now. I cleaned it off just for this demo. Usually it's not. It's just got bits and pieces of glass scattered everywhere. So after a bit of collection on my table, I will divide the colors in shades of blues, greens, browns, mixture of bright colors, and this is what I do with them. So I'm using a rod of white and a rod of a pale transparent blue. I'm going to heat these up on the end to make just a little bit of a gather, and I'm going to touch down in these bits and pieces of glass. I'm going to hold it there just a sec to make the glass warm up a little bit so it doesn't shock off. If it does, you can always pick it up. So these are every shade of blue I can think of put together. There's some bits of purple in there, opaque and transparent. And I don't really pay attention to putting the opaque to the transparent rod or the transparent rods to the opaque. I just kind of pick them up as they come. Each piece, small or large, can contribute to what I'm trying to do here, which is using up scrap glass. There we go. So if you start to lose control, just come out of the flame. So trying to use up every little piece of scrap glass. I don't like throwing glass away. And it's cool. This technique has a few benefits. So I'm going to melt these and pull them like I would a stringer, similar to a stringer. But instead of the defined pattern of like a spiral wrap or those even stripes that are developed when you pull a twisty, I want large chunks of color. This should just about do it. So there may be a little bit of teal in here, a little bit of purple. It kind of depends on what I'm going for. Most of the time this is used in waterways or skies, but you could use it in, say, bluebird feathers or a variegated petal for a flower. So I'm just going to touch these together and heat them up again. So you can see when I'm heating up this large bit, I'm going from left to right and rotating. I want it all to be heated evenly. I'm not twisting like you would for a twisty. I'm going to pull apart just a little and then fold that large gather onto itself. Heating again. Pulling a little and folding over. And that's going to give me those large blocks of color I'm looking for. There's a little bit of twisting in there. Let's do it one more time. You don't want to overdo this process because then you'll blend them together and kind of come up with another color. So I want to see the separation of colors. I don't add any dark ivory in with the blues because of the reaction of the dark ivory. But most every other color I add. I don't put silver glass in here. So now I'm just heating it all up, left to right, to a nice glow. Letting it rest a minute. And then pulling. I like the thick and thin, not only the mixture of colors or the color blocks of colors, but also the fat and thin part of the stringers. It gives a nice dimension in water or skies. Gives a little more variation in color for flowers or feathers on a bird. And just melt those off. And the ends of the rods that have this color on them, you can just pinch right off and add to your tray. This is a metal candle holder I found at either Pier 1 or at some attic sale. It's got a little bit of height to it, so it doesn't get too hot, but it gets everything in it just a little warm. Make sure all that is off. There we go. And then I'll store these colors in little jars. Makes for nice storage. Let me throw this in and I'll share something else. I always keep a paintbrush on my table to pick up these little pieces of glass. Make sure they end up back in the jar and not on the floor for my dogs to step on. Okay, so you can see the big chunks of color, dark to light. That's what I'm looking for. I'll show you some beads after this where I've used these. So the next thing I want to share is I have some frit. Excuse me, I thought it looked really pretty when I bought it or when I saw the pictures of it being used, but it's very dark. But it's a lot of frit. I don't want to waste it. So one of the ways I'll use this, I'll take some white since this is dark. I'll heat it up and just roll it in this frit, a good thick coating. of this frit. September we had a challenge for making Halloween beads or spooky beads. Some of the beads I made were pumpkins, and I used this pull, this frit in a pull, a stringer, for the stems of the pumpkins. I also used it in a night sky with a tree, and I used this stringer in the night sky. I think I made a base of white and encased the sky or encased the top part of the bead in a gray. And then I used this to put streaks in the sky, which looked like darker clouds. So that's a pretty good coating. I also use this technique with adventuring frit or goldstone. I'll use a clear rod as a base and then roll the frit quite thickly, and then I will encase it in clear and get a nice sparkly effect. Oops. Try again. Can concentrate the heat right on those fat, thick places and work it out. The adventuring frit is like this too. It tries to be chunky when you pull it, so you just have to be patient. There we go. So that's what that looks like. Pinch off the end. I can put it right back in there for next time. Let me turn this torch off just a sec. So the blues, leftovers, for bluebirds, sky, waterway, it'd make a nice flower. Also, we had a challenge for sweets and candy for beads of courage. There was also, I did a tutorial for cupcakes. So I took bright, colorful bits and pieces and did this same technique with the blues, but I used this for the ruffled edge around a cupcake, so it would have a bright colored top and then a ruffled edge. Here's a piece here. So the ruffled edge was made with the bright colors. That was kind of nice too. You can also use combinations of force. If you're doing an owl, you can use shades of brown, both transparent and opaque. I would put a little bit of dark ivory in if it were being used on a tree trunk or owl feathers. I don't usually add ivory to these kind of mixtures. I don't want that that pretty reaction that you get. And when you're picking up the pieces from your table, especially if you use a paintbrush, make sure you don't get any bead release in there because that'll stick on the surface of your bead. I hope that helped you some. Thanks for tuning in again. I appreciate it. Bye.